and legacy to order. Let record show that today is Tuesday, February 19th, 2026, and the time is about 3:10. I'd like to welcome everybody back, especially our member, especially Senator Hoffman. Our thought and prayer will have been with you and still continue so. And also, member of the audience, thank you for being here. And as chair, I'll maintain the proceeding and want to establish this kind of expectation, just so it's out there. I'm a very person who have wider tolerance, but sometimes that need to be gavel or need to set the rule. I will follow and make sure that everybody follow under that guideline. Some of the expectation of this committee will be no sign to be displayed and no verbal outbursts, no applause, must be seated, although that's maybe hard to do, but audience may be seated and members do as you will if you had to walk around, talk to other members or talk to researcher or interns. And this is for everyone's safety. And for folks that want to testify, make sure that you sign up in advance. And there will be limited time for a testifier, a testimony, and so want to we will announce your time limits and make sure that you stay within that time limits as well. So these are some of the guidelines for rules here. If you have any issue or any question, we have Sergeant Arm here that could be a help to make sure that this committee is accommodating and safe for you as well. First of all, today we have three items on our agenda. We will have the Crossbow report. We will have the Environmental Trust Fund, DNR, and the Minnesota Climate Action Framework, MTCA. Let's start this committee. I know that we've done this number of times. Folks may know who are members of this committee, but I want to follow the same process at other committee as well. So let's start making introduction of our members, starting from the right side of me here. With Senator, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Senator Steve Dryskowski, Senate District 20. I live in Mazeppa, southeast Minnesota.
Senator John Hoffman, Senate District 34. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator McCune, our vice chair, is online. Senator McCune, you hear us?
Hi, everybody. I apologize for not joining in person, but I'm feeling pretty under the weather, so I'm waiting right now for a ride to go back up to Duluth, and I'm going to be joining today remotely. But I'm very honored to be the vice chair of this committee and look forward to our work this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Michael Vu, legislative assistant to Senator Fong Her.
Cara Josephson, committee administrator.
And I'm the chair, Senator Fong Her. I represent Eastside St. Paul.
Ben Stanley, committee counsel.
Dan Mueller, fiscal analyst for the committee.
Steve Green, senator for District 2.
Andrew Lang, Senate District 16 now.
Nathan Wiesenberg, Senate District 10.
And I'm State Senator Mary Kunish, District 39.
Okay. And we also have our page. Can you come up and introduce yourself at the mic? Maybe pick the last mic down there. Or is there a mic? Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sharu. I'm a committee page.
Hi, I'm Josephine or Josie. I'm also a committee page.
And thank you. With the new rule, the intern now had to sit back with the audience. So I want to acknowledge Sai Yang, who's our intern. Oh, right in front here, a debater, urban debate co-president, now a student of University of Minnesota, engineer student at University of Minnesota. So, good. Now we shall proceed to our agenda. The first item here is the Crossbow report from the DNR. And so want to call Leslie McEden, I should have pronounced it, and then followed by Nick. Or you all can come up here to the testimony table because there's 3 seats. And members, there's also letters in your package as well, and each of this item do have letter of support. So go ahead with your, introduce yourself and go ahead with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you for the opportunity to present our reports to you today. For the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. Leslie McEnany is going to discuss our Crossbow report that was required by the legislature to present to you all. First, I'd like to thank Senator Pa and the legislature for bringing us this opportunity and giving us the opportunity to review it, present this information to you, and we look forward to working with you on this issue in this session. With that, we will hear the results.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. Again, my name is Leslie McEnany, and I'm the Wildlife Population and Regulations Manager for Minnesota DNR. Thank you for this opportunity to present on our evaluation of crossbow use during the archery seasons. I want to make sure you're seeing the presentation presented below me. Is that working for you?
No, it's not there yet. So nothing if any person who are a little technology savvy right there.
Oh,
Okay,
there
here we go.
Good. Before I dive into some of the highlights of the report that we shared with you last October, I did want to just acknowledge up front some of the structural differences between the report and the session language that directed us to conduct this report. In particular, the session language was focused on the impact of using crossbows on the deer population in this state. And because the ability to use crossbow during archery seasons also had an impact on turkey seasons, we decided to include an evaluation in that report as well. For the purposes of this hearing, I will be focused on the impacts primarily on deer seasons, but want to call it to your attention that there's a good amount of information about turkey seasons in there as well, and I will do one quick highlight of some of the summary results from the turkey seasons. A couple of items to note. We used various sources of data to conduct this report. We looked primarily at harvest. We monitor turkey populations and deer populations primarily through mandatory harvest. So harvest data, license data, and then we also supplemented it with 2 different surveys, a survey of deer hunters and a survey of turkey hunters. A couple limitations or maybe caveats to consider when you're reading the report is prior to 2023, we did not collect harvest registration data to indicate whether it was deer were harvested by crossbow or by vertical bow. We modified our registration system to collect that data starting in 2023, but it makes it difficult comparing before and after. We also, our licenses, we only have an archery license, so we don't differentiate between crossbow license holders and archery vertical bow hunters. And that also makes it a little bit difficult. And one of the reasons we went forward with asking about participation through using the hunter survey data. It's also, difficult to think about overall population impacts, the complexity of things that influence wildlife populations, especially over a 2-year time frame. So we will continue to monitor these data and look at the impacts, but just recognizing that we only had 2 years of data to really build this on. One other final note is that with the session law changing in 2023, most of the hunters found out about this change when they received the regulations booklet in August of 2023, which likely impacted the number of people that might go out and jump to buy a crossbow if they didn't already have one. So we expect people will be maybe adopting use if this regulation is continued into the future. We expect some additional participation over time. going to just jump to our primary take-homes before I dive into some details. And based on the 2 years, we found no evidence that the statute change expanding crossbow use during the archery season impacted either deer or turkey populations. And I'll get into a little bit of how we came to that conclusion. We also, in the report, the data indicate that we might have some positive benefits associated with recruitment and retention efforts, particularly when it comes to youth, older aged, and female hunters, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. So when we think about impacts on harvest levels, deer harvested by archery increased a small amount in 2023, and it looks like a pretty substantial amount in 2024. That was the second highest recorded archery harvest that we experienced. However, we aren't necessarily able to attribute that to crossbow hunters during the archery season. If you look at these two graphs displayed, the top is 2023 and the bottom is 2024, and those lines might be pretty small for you. But the blue line is harvest by vertical bow, and the green line is harvest by crossbow. So what we saw is that harvest increased by both vertical and crossbow hunters. And the big jump in 2024 is likely explained by the start date of our firearms season. Our firearms season starts November 6th, or the Saturday closest to November 6th. And in 2024, that was the latest we ever really open a season based on that structure. So what it means is that the archery hunters have kind of an additional opportunity pre-rut, or as the rut is building up, the mating season when deer are more vulnerable. So just that extra weekend results in a lot of enthusiasm among hunters, but also increased vulnerability. Did we lose the presentation? Oh, there it goes. We also wondered about whether there might be some differences in hunter preferences and harvest of different age or sex categories between crossbow and vertical bow hunters. And if you look at these numbers up above, basically comparing, we were actually quite surprised at how close the percentages were. But there really isn't any difference in selection or harvest of certain age or sex types by hunters. In 2023, the proportion of deer harvested by archery hunters that were through crossbow was 43.8%, and in 2024 it was 48%. Now, that's similar to what other states saw when crossbows were allowed in their archery season, so not a large surprise. We expect, if this were continued, that we'd continue to see increasing proportions of deer harvested by crossbow. We were also interested in kind of who's using crossbow. We can't get that data, of course, through our license data, but looking at crossbow harvest, it was highest. These lines, these graphs that are presented here, 2023 on the top, 2024 on the bottom. The green is crossbow and the blue is vertical bow. And so in places where you see the green line above the blue line, that means that there was greater crossbow harvest. So youth were harvesting more of their deer during the archery season with crossbows than with vertical bows. And that was also happening with older hunters. Now, something to remember is pre-2023, hunters 60 years and older were able to use crossbows during the archery season. So that large bump towards the right side of the graph actually is reflective of people that were probably already using crossbows during the archery season, or many that were. If you look at 2024 versus 2023, there is a slight bump in the harvest levels, crossbow harvest, between hunters age 50 to 60. So that is demonstrating that maybe some of our hunters a little bit younger than age 60 are picking up on using crossbows. Just as physically, it's potentially offers up opportunities for hunters that might not be able to as easily use a vertical bow. Looking at percentages, 64% of the deer harvested by female archery hunters were through crossbow. And when you compare that, only 46% of the archery harvest among male hunters, archery hunters, was using crossbow. One of the other things we really wanted to look at is places in the state where deer might be most vulnerable to additional harvest pressure. And that's in areas where we have lotteries to enable hunters to take antlerless deer. In our season structures, and there's actually an appendix for people that are interested in looking at getting details on how our deer seasons are structured, but in lottery areas, bow hunters aren't required to enter a lottery to get one of the limited antlerless permits. And so our concern was that potentially if there's a lot more crossbow harvest, these lottery areas might get additional harvest pressure. And we actually, at least in the first 2 years, didn't see that play out. This graph is a bit complicated, but there were 31 deer permit areas that were lottery that we looked at to kind of look at the trends. And that dark green line is sort of the average. Really no change in antlerless harvest in those lottery areas, but certainly something we want to monitor moving forward in terms of areas that might be more sensitive to increased harvest. Few other quick results from the Crossbow report. Archery license sales increased 6.5%. That's not a total surprise either, though, because we've been seeing increases in archery harvest since about 2004. So it's been ramping up. It's almost double. I think it's roughly doubled since 2004. Success rates, wounding rates, and hunter effort were similar between crossbow and vertical bow users, and there's a lot more granular data in the report. We also, from the hunter surveys, 11% of crossbow users began archery hunting, they indicated, because of the crossbow expansion. So that does indicate maybe some recruitment. And then also 62% of crossbow users indicated they'd be more likely to continue deer hunting because crossbows have been made legal for all. This is the brief slide on some turkey results. Similarly, turkey license sales increased after 2023. We've also been seeing lots of growth in turkey season participation, so that's just something to monitor. Similarly, we didn't see changes in success rates or differences in success rates, wounding rates, or accuracy. There was no evidence, so different from deer seasons, our turkey season, you have to choose either to participate in the archery season, the spring archery season, or the regular spring firearms season. So it's an either or. You can't add on as you can with the deer season. And we didn't see a shift. We didn't have any evidence that we're seeing people in the firearm season move to archery because the archery season is actually longer than the firearm seasons that are available. The proportion harvested with crossbow was higher again for youth and older hunters. 26% of crossbow users reported that crossbow availability was their reason for hunting in the turkey seasons. And then among turkey hunters, attitudes toward crossbows were most favorable among crossbow users and least favorable among vertical bow users. And we do see that there are differences of opinion in terms of the potential impacts to hunter interference or experiences, and depending on what type of weapons the hunters choose to use. So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present, and am happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Any question from members on crossbow? Certainly.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it's kind of surprising, actually. I would have assumed that some of the success rates would go up, even if it was minutely. But I appreciate the report. It's actually quite encouraging to see some of the, especially with some of the female hunters and more aged, seasoned hunters get out there a little bit more than what they have been. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I guess it isn't entirely shocking, but you would think that some of the harvest numbers maybe would have gone up. But yeah, it's just maybe success rates would be that, not so much license sales, but success rates for those same age groups. It's kind of strange that it hasn't. Maybe it over the course of time it should, or will. But
yeah, that's a comment. So any other questions or comments? Sarah Kunish.
Good to see you all here again. So I have noticed, we have all noticed, increasing flocks of turkeys in our urban core. I mean, I have at different times probably 15 turkeys roosting in the trees of where I live. Is there ever a discussion around controlling that population by allowing just as every now and then there, when we have a lot of urban deer too, kind of culling out the herds of deer. Is there ever any discussion around doing that with turkey as well? You hear every now and then about people out jogging or out with kids and turkeys intimidating them or following them or chasing them. Is that ever something that you've had discussions about?
Mr.
Ms.
Chair,
McKinley?
Senator Kunish, yes, actually, this year we started up a program training turkey control operators for local kind of metropolitan units to be able to remove turkeys above and beyond the normal turkey season in places where they're, it's just difficult to manage turkey numbers. So that's one thing. We also the turkey hunter survey that we collected asked questions above and beyond just the crossbow impact, and was looking at interest in potentially considering, whether or not we'd want to ever shift to, a second bird opportunity, increasing bag limits. So we have collected data on that, and we know that there's interest in that. One of the concerns kind of nationally is that other states have been seeing turkey population declines. We haven't been seeing that in Minnesota, and so it's kind of a disparity, but our staff have been discussing it.
Just one follow-up.
Sarah McKinley.
And then what sort of a weapon might be used, like in the urban area for turkey hunting, if that were elimination, if that were to happen? Would that ever open up publicly, or what would be the safest way to do that?
Ms. McKinley?
Mr. Chair, Senator Kunish, I think I understood your question in terms of, maybe if you could restate your question, it would help me. My understanding was, how might we modify our hunting seasons to make it available?
I believe this something along the line of metro bow hunt.
Yeah, would it, if it's okay, would it be firearms or bows that you would use in like an urban elimination?
I suspect it would likely be more bow hunting, similar to the Metro Bow Hunters Resource Board. That enables local governmental units, if we're opening it up to hunting, to address concerns about weapon use, firearms use, that sort of thing. So potentially vertical harvest, bow harvest opportunities. We do meet with the local governmental units, and our area managers kind of connect with them on that. And I don't think we've honestly received all that many requests for example, special hunts or special hunt opportunities that are different than our broader turkey season, but I could certainly foresee it happening.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Good. And I know that this legislation was brought forth by Senator Pa, but it's bipartisan, and Senator Wiesenberg is the co-author of the bill as well. So thank you, Ms. McKinley, for your presentation on this. Is very helpful and useful for our upcoming decision and legislation. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Nick Munro to come to testify. Welcome, and please state your name for the record.
Nick Amrud, I'm the president of Minnesota Bow Hunters. So just want to start with, I'm really glad to be here today. Like I said, I'm the president of Minnesota Bow Hunters. We started in 1946. We are strongly opposed to the continued full inclusion of crossbows into archery seasons. Because we are specifically discussing hunting seasons that were implemented for archery, a meaningful line for what weapon categories are allowed does need to be drawn. Crossbows do represent a clear separation from user-drawn and held equipment. Once loaded, the shot process is nearly identical to that of a shotgun or rifle. Ballistics are different, but the overall process is similar. Based on data from other states, we are likely to see the majority of bow hunters leave archery in favor of lower effort and more advantageous crossbows. This notable decline in archers is expected to have a lasting negative participation impact on archery clubs and whole family community events centered around archery. Currently, Minnesota has around 1,500 youth participating in the National Archery in Schools program, 450 in 4-H, and a couple hundred more in archery clubs. States with crossbow archery seasons are seeing significantly increased archery season license sales, but the total number of hunters and overall deer harvest in states like Wisconsin continues to decline. The state is selling more licenses as harvest and participation decrease. We have seen a higher participation among youth and adult hunters in the past when technology, online resources, and gear options were substantially worse than they are today. A simple shift of harvest towards archery season does not appear to be a management benefit, and it certainly isn't one that outweighs the negative impacts to archery, bow hunter opportunity, and overall access issues. It should also be noted that crossbows will remain as legal weapon options during the firearm and youth season, though there are better weapon options for youth during those times. In conclusion, we respectfully ask that you preserve archery seasons for archery. Thank you for your time.
Any question for Mr. Amanru? Okay. All right. Comment time. Senator Weisenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you said, I am a co-author on the bill, and I think it's good. You know, it sounds like if the argument is there's less participation, then what are we worried about? Why would we take the crossbow season away if participation is decreasing and we're trying to get more hunter retention? And as the DNR stated, you know, there's no difference in deer populations. I have talked at length with many people about this even before we brought this legislation forward. Like, people that hunt and bow hunt. And I'd say if it was 300 people, maybe 5 people didn't like it. So the majority of people are okay with the season. And, you know, if we want to go back and talk about tools, we had longbows, and then we went to compound bows, now we have crossbows. And I used to shoot, well, I still don't have a crossbow. I shoot a compound bow, but I can pull it back, and it's got a trigger on it, and I can hold it for a long time. So we're there. We're going to get there. The deer population is what we're looking at. It hasn't gone down, and it's going to be safe. And hopefully we can get these, you know, other people, kids and women, to come into the sport if they haven't been able to. It's a good opportunity. I don't see this hurting anyone. I like the bill. Let's sunset the crossbow and keep it forever. So, oh, and I also have a letter from Minnesota Minnesota Deer Hunters Association also supports this too. So they want to keep crossbows around. So.
Okay. We had note that Mr. Darren Lee is on the list for testimony as well. Do come forward. Welcome, and state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Darren Lee with Flaherty and Hood here today on behalf of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. I have a letter from our executive director. I'd just like to read it into the record, please. Thank you. Dear Chair Herr and honorable committee members, on behalf of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and our 20,000 members across the state, I'm writing to express our strong support for the continued full inclusion of crossbows within Minnesota's designated archery deer hunting seasons. Minnesota has a proud heritage of conservation rooted in responsible hunting and sound wildlife management. Ensuring that hunting opportunities remain accessible, inclusive, and aligned with modern equipment and hunter participation trends is essential to sustaining that legacy. Crossbows represent an important and appropriate tool that allows more Minnesotans to participate safely and effectively in archery seasons. First and foremost, crossbows expand participation. Many hunters face physical limitations due to age, injury, or disability that make the use of traditional vertical bows difficult or impossible. Crossbows provide these individuals with meaningful opportunity to continue participating in archery hunting, and these individuals should not be required to take extra steps such as receiving a medical exemption in order to do so. Retaining experienced hunters in the field strengthens our conservation community, preserves mentorship traditions, and maintains license revenue that directly supports wildlife management. Additionally, crossbows serve as an important recruitment and retention tool for new hunters. The learning curve associated with traditional archery equipment can be steep and discouraging for beginners. Crossbows offer a more approachable entry point, helping introduce new participants to archery seasons while maintaining close-range ethical harvest principles that define archery hunting. As hunter numbers decline nationwide, Minnesota must embrace tools that help reverse this trend and secure the future of conservation funding. From a wildlife management perspective, crossbows are a highly effective and appropriate tool that aligns with the intent of archery seasons. Crossbow hunters operate under the same seasonal timelines, bag limits, and proximity requirements as traditional archers. Their effective range remains relatively limited compared to firearms, ensuring that archery seasons continue to provide a unique, low-impact harvest opportunity that helps manage deer populations responsibly. Importantly, many states, including Minnesota, have already fully integrated crossbows into archery seasons without negative biological impacts. These states have demonstrated that crossbow inclusion does not undermine wildlife management goals or diminish traditional archery participation. Minnesota can confidently continue to follow this proven model while maintaining its commitment to sound science-based management. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources relies on hunter participation as a cornerstone of its conservation model. Expanding access through crossbow inclusion supports hunter recruitment, retention, and reactivation, which is essential for maintaining sustainable wildlife management funding. License revenue and federal matching funds generated by hunters support habitat restoration, wildlife research, and conservation programs that benefit all Minnesotans. In the interest of time, I'll just stop there. But thank you. I appreciate it. That's from our Executive Director, Jared Mazurek. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and that's the same letter you're talking about? Right?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
You can finish it.
Okay.
It's a lengthy letter.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I should have noted earlier that we had quorum right at the get-go, and you know, if you look at your agenda, I noted that we're trying to get this done in about 1 hour, so we still have 2 more agenda. Next, I'd like to call Ms. Robinson from the DNR to talk about the community grant of the Environmental Trust Fund. Welcome, and when you're ready, state your name for the record and go ahead with the presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Again, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, DNR. I have with me today Mary Robeson, our Chief Financial Officer, and also Kathleen Sherman-Honan in the audience in case questions come up after the presentation. The 2 of them have been instrumental in preparing this document. We appreciate the opportunity to present this report to you all, as this has been a very important issue and to trying to get up and running as soon as possible. We appreciate the time.
Anytime you're ready.
Just as soon as, we are.
It isn't projecting on the screen.
We lost it.
There we go.
There we go.
You see it now? There we go.
Just a little background and purpose of the report here, of the program. So the grant program was established during the 2023 legislative session with the creation of Minnesota Statute 116X, which lays out the parameters of the program. Under this statute, grants are to be administered by the DNR under the guidance and recommendation of an advisory council. Grants must be used for purposes authorized in the Minnesota Constitution for the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, and expand the number and diversity of recipients that benefit from ENRTF or the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund dollars, especially in communities that have been diversely affected by pollution and environmental degradation. This is a key cornerstone of this grant program, in addition to 2 other categories that were added relating to AIS and local trail improvements, which we'll get to. The next slide here. Grants may be awarded for the following purposes. I started to discuss helping adversely impacted communities respond to environmental degradation and related health concerns, education and awareness related to the stewardship of air, land, water, forests, fish, wildlife, and other natural resources, preserving or enhancing air, land, water, and other natural resources that otherwise may be substantially impaired or destroyed in any area of the state, trail maintenance and improvement on state, regional, or local trails, not including new trails or trail segments, and also aquatic invasive species management. The purpose of today is to review our community grants report that was required under Minnesota laws of 2025 First Special Session, Chapter 1, Article 3, Section 3. The report was required to include recommendations to ensure that the program operates in a similar manner to the Conservation Legacy Partners Program and the Outdoor Heritage Fund, including a draft of any requests for proposals and criteria that will be used to prioritize applications and allocate funding. Must also provide details of grant program implementation and discuss the organizational structure and membership of the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund Community Grants Advisory Council. The report that DNR submitted to ranking members of this community on December 12th of this year covered these criteria, and we welcome discussion on the content of the report. I will say that prior to getting to this stage, we did discuss with the chairs of this committee and the co-chairs in the House on the report to see if they had any concerns. We had great conversations. They supported the work we did, so we are moving forward with the issuing of the solicitation for the members for the advisory council here next week. So you will see that coming shortly. Before I turn this over to Ms. Robinson to walk through the report, just want to talk about where we are now. Like I talked about, we're in the implementation phase, and we're committed to achieving the goals of expanding access of these dollars while also maintaining strong fiscal controls. I cannot say that strongly enough. Strong fiscal controls are another cornerstone of this program, which Director Robeson will get into. Our next steps will be opening up the application process for the advisory council next week, and then we look forward to getting this step going, as they will play an important role in implementation of this program. We cannot get too far into the implementation without this group. Our goal is to get these funds awarded as soon as possible. By the first half of this fiscal year. You'll see there are a couple of different expedited rounds that will go first, and then the full round, like we do with the Sarge Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council, would do similar to their grant call, issue the large RFP as well at the same time. With that, Mr. Chair and members, I will turn it over to Ms. Robeson to walk through the report and the recommendations.
Welcome, Ms. Robeson. Go ahead with it. Well, state your name for the record, and then go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Mary Robinson, Chief Financial Officer for the DNR. I'm very happy to be here today to discuss the report. As Assistant Commissioner Meyer had already stated, one aspect of this report was to look at recommendations to implement this program similar to the Conservation Partners Legacy Program that is funded by the Outdoor Heritage Fund. Because these programs do have similar legislative purposes in terms of increasing capacity within the state to address environmental and natural resources issues by expanding access to funding. I do want to note, just for your background, that the DNR administers millions of dollars worth of Outdoor Heritage Fund and LCCMR grants. In particular, the group that will be administering this program administers pass-through grants from both of those funds. Just to give a sense of volume, this past year we are administering around $150 million worth of pass-through grants from those two funds, and have around $500 million worth of open grants from those sources at any given time. So it's a group with a tremendous amount of experience in grant administration. And I'd say we're very proud, and I, as an individual, am very proud of my group and the work that we do to make sure that we have quality grant administration in place. In terms of the similarities and differences between the ENRTF Community Grants Program and the CPL program, there are some similarities, some core similarities, one being enhanced technical assistance and guidance to grantees, both in the application process and throughout the life of the grant, and that's part of how we envision supporting smaller organizations in receiving these funds. We will also use technical experts for application review and project consultation, just as is done with the CPL program. And as Commissioner Meyer mentioned, we will have both standard and expedited grant rounds. There are some differences between the two programs, however, and I just want to mention a few of those. One is that the ENRTF Community Grant Program will not require match in order to receive funds, and we also envision allowing the use of fiscal agents. Fiscal agents are essentially larger, more established organizations that would come in alongside smaller organizations and apply to help those organizations with grant administration and fiscal control elements. Also in the Community Grants Program, there is an advisory council, as has been already mentioned, that is established and outlined in Minnesota Statutes 116X that doesn't exist in the CPL program. And we also look to allow for greater flexibility in the use of administrative funding by grantees, as that is part of capacity building for smaller organizations. In terms of the Advisory Council, which is another core piece of this report, the DNR will establish that Advisory Council in accordance with the membership structure, terms, and duties and experience requirements that are all outlined in 116X. As Assistant Commissioner Meyer mentioned already, we plan to open up an open and competitive application process next week, in which we will identify between 14 and 19 members, as is according to statute. The exact number on this council will be dependent on the amount of folks needed to meet the qualifications and demographics set in law. And council members will be required to disclose and appropriately manage any potential or perceived conflicts of interest. With regards to the implementation plan provided in this report, we do lay out both the standard and expedited grant rounds. Just a few characterizations of those. The expedited grant rounds, as the title implies, must be ready to go and cannot include capital projects or land acquisition due to time constraints, whereas those types of activities would be allowed under the standard grant round. We do envision 2 expedited grant rounds per year and 1 standard round. There are different fiscal caps on both of those, with expedited grants being smaller, envisioned as up to $50,000, with standard grants up to $750,000. In terms of the prioritization of grants, given the goals of the program, we would look at recipients' past receipt of ENRTF dollars in terms of whether or not they had received dollars in the past and how often, as well as location relative to environmental justice areas in terms of whether or not an applicant exists within a environmental justice area in partially or in full. And those environmental justice areas are defined in statute, in state statute. Going on further to the implementation plan, as Commissioner Meyer mentioned earlier, we really do view both of critical importance, meeting the goals of expanding the accessibility of this fund and risk assessment and strong fiscal controls. So the report in the implementation plan lays out the different strategies for both of these things. The various supports to expand access includes financial management support, like the fiscal agents that I mentioned earlier, application support, expanded technical assistance for grantees, and allowance to use grant funds for administrative expenses. In terms of risk assessment, mitigation, and fiscal controls, every aspect of the program will be implemented in full accordance with the laws and policies of the state with regards to pre-award financial reviews and grant monitoring. The administrative budget that DNR is allowed under 116X will be used to both provide those necessary supports as well as the financial oversight required of the program. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Members, any question? Senator Green.
I had a question for you first, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Are we quitting at 4, or are we going to go longer? Because I can ask like 3 questions at a time to move faster. But
Yeah. We like to approximately 4.
Okay.
So there's no strict time. But yeah.
Okay, I got a series of questions, but they're pretty simple questions. I think to be easy answers. First of all, looking at this, you guys get a 5%. For administering the grants, that's like 1.4 million, and I see that, and I'm not sure if you're going to use all that up, but if looking at the staff and the applications to fill out, it says that you're going to help people with applications as they fill them out. Would that help also extend to when they need permits? Do you do this for other applications that you take in for other entities as far as helping with the applications? Because in here it does say that there might be times when they're going to need a permit and they'll have to do that as well. And and I know you said some stuff about monitoring, but we're reading it. It looks like the recipients might be responsible to do self-monitoring. So if you can get those 3 questions without too much repeating, it would be nice.
Ms. Robinson.
Mr. Chair and Senator Green, I will do my best to answer all your questions. With regards to the technical assistance, you are correct. Applicants may need permits at some points, and we do envision that that would be part of the technical assistance that we provide. In terms of when we provide that to other programs, I would need to look into that a bit further, although I do believe for CPL we do provide similar types of technical assistance, but I will confirm. In terms of the administrative costs, I'm trying to remember your question about our budget, but I will say we envision using that 5% to hire the staff that are going to provide the technical assistance. And as laid out in the report, we would also look to purchase a grants management system, which will help us with the management of the program, including the fiscal oversight and all of the monitoring pieces there. That was the other piece. I'm remembering your third question. In terms of monitoring, we would monitor all grants in this program according to state requirements. So it depends on the size of the grant, but we would be doing monitoring of our grant applicants. In terms of their own responsibilities, grantees and fiscal agents are responsible also for overseeing their own use of funds, not alone, not without DNR oversight, but we do want to work to build the capacity for smaller organizations to have those strong fiscal controls, understand what they need to do, and build the ability to do it themselves, because that's part of what building strong organizations is about, or at least in part.
Mr. Chair.
Follow-up, Senator Green.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing, I know that your standard grant applications are to be repaid after the projects are done, if I read right. But your expedited grants, the money goes out first. And that, with all the fraud that we've seen coming in, I was wondering what you have in place to maybe protect against the fraud after that money goes out. Is there a way to claw that back should the conditions not be met?
Ms. Robertson.
Mr. Chair, Senator Green, an excellent question. I do want to clarify that it would not be the case that all expedited grants would be provided in advance. We do say in the report that advances would be a potential option. That is something that has been asked for in this grant program for smaller organizations that don't have the capacity to cash flow grants on the front end. However, it's not something that would be standard or guaranteed. It would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. I will say in terms of how that would be handled, the Office of Grants Management does have standards and guidelines for advances that we would obviously follow in designing what that would look like in terms of how we determine need and how we do clawback. In terms of potential clawback, there are a number of options we could look at. One of them is, of course, that you wouldn't be advancing, for example, the entire value of the grant, but maybe smaller pieces as you go based on need or phase, depending on the particular grant. And there would also be, for example, terms in the grant agreements that would allow for clawback. But we would also, as we go through this process, I will say, we still have a lot of the details to work out, and we would be working that out again in relation to state law and policy and in collaboration with the Office of Grants Management as well.
Okay, just a few more, Mr. Chair. On page 21 of the report, it requires mandatory training. Would that, like in the case of the expedited grants that do get the funding, in advance, would you require that mandatory training and before the application is accepted?
Ms. Robertson.
Mr. Chair and Senator Green, I will caveat by saying again that we're still working through a lot of the details. I would say that one of the ways in which we envision mandatory training would be for fiscal agents, again, those larger organizations that are going to oversee smaller organizations, because we need to know that they understand their roles and responsibilities in those environments and what the role of the DNR is versus the fiscal agent versus the grantee, that everyone is on the same page about what those roles and responsibilities are and what their responsibilities are to do, because one potential risk is just confusion or a lack of communication that could lead unintentionally to gaps in oversight, and we don't want that. So a lot of our focus on training would be on those fiscal agents and understanding roles and responsibilities.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I've got more questions, but I'm only going to do one more in the interest of time. On page 37, you talk about the capital expenditures and what's allowed in the way of tools, and that would be paid for. And I was a little bit unclear, and that's probably my fault. It talks about tools valued over $5,000, and that would be allowed. And so would tools be allowed up to $5,000, or anything over $5,000 would be classified as acceptable to buy? And I guess what I'm wondering is, are they going to be able to buy computers if they need them, or you know, stuff like that, or is that a collective amount? You maybe just explain what that means to me.
Ms. Robinson, Deputy Commissioner.
All right.
And if I'm stumping you, I'm glad. I'll wait for the answer to later.
You're stumping me a little bit. I'm going to call Catherine Sherman-Hohen, our grants manager, up, because you got me. I was doing so well. Go ahead.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, Senator Green, members, for the record, my name is Catherine Sherman-Hohen. I am the agency-wide grants manager for the Department of Natural Resources. The piece referred to on page 37 is our capital expenditures line in the budget item. That specifically is for large-scale tools and equipment. For instance, a harvester, or other kind of mowing that might be used in aquatic invasive species. So at that level, what we are stating here is that we require the grantee to be using a capital investment or capital equipment asset management system in order to track that through its useful life. At lower levels, tools and equipment are still allowed. They would fall under, I believe we have it in there, the supplies and equipment category.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the testimony here. So, you know, it does give us information guideline. Yes. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering, are there going to be any site visits to make sure they're actually doing what they say they're doing? Because we've seen in other grant areas in this state where there's a nonprofit and it's a shell and we get defrauded. So are you going to go out and actually take pictures and kick the dirt and do the things you need to do to make sure stuff's happening is supposed to happen?
Mr. Chair, Senator Drazkowski, yes. That is part of the monitoring tool set, and we will be using it as appropriate for the particular kind of project that is done. We will be verifying for all projects that the actual work has been completed according to our standards and requirements from the work plans, and on-site visits are a big part of that.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. So you're saying that you can assure us that every project's going to be seen with somebody from the agency's eyes?
Mr. Chair, yes. Senator Drazkowski, it will depend on the kind of work. All work will be verified. All work will be verified. For a lot of that will involve site visits where we go out and see it with our own eyes. There may be kinds of work, for instance, educational programs where we would work with a grantee to figure out what is the best way for us to have objective and thorough verification that the work happened and happened the way it should.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you. Can you tell us why you would not go out to any of those? I don't, if they're doing educational programs, wouldn't you, visit them in their workshop where they're putting the materials together, or go to their site where they're conducting the education? I don't know that there's a reason to.
Senator, Mr. Chair, Senator Drazkowski, we're looking at a broad variety of potential of potential items, and we don't know everything that is going to be in the proposals yet, so I'm trying to leave a broad variety of options open. Examples in current grants that we have are grants that are for site visits for children to state parks, or one-time educational opportunities where we may have other ways of making sure that that absolutely happened and verifying independently.
Well, Mr. Chair, we will be watching closely, and with the assurance from the agency that they're going to make certain we don't get fraud in this program, we will be watching. Thank you.
Sure, and I will be watching together as well, and I won't identify fraud at the forefront, but it's something that we have to be in combine and keep an eye on and make sure that program growth. A question to Mr. Meyer, there's a joint letter here from the community groups and asking it to move the application more quicker. Can you give us a little timeline? Maybe you did say earlier, but maybe going fast that I didn't quite catch.
Sure, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Bob Meyer, Department of Natural Resources. And just really quickly to Senator Zukowski's question, we're doing this work right now with our ENRTF, LCCMR grants that the legislature funds, the Outdoor Heritage Fund grants that the department administers. We're visiting the sites, we're working with the project managers, making sure this work gets done. The program will follow those guidelines very similarly. Some people don't like it when we show up, but we show up anyway, right? We're going to enforce this very stringently, make sure that there is no fraud in the program. That's one of our #1 priorities. And speeding it up and getting it done is the other top priority. So we have moved up the RFP application, or the application for solicitation for membership. We will keep that open for a brief while, make sure we get enough applicants in, select those members, begin working on the RFP. We have a draft RFP to work with them on, begin that conversation. That's one of their main goals, is to review and approve the RFP documentation. With that done, we will turn around and then go into the expedited grant program, and hopefully also at the same time release the RFP for the full-scale projects as well. That'll have a longer time frame, and our goal is to have that done by, at least get some of the smaller grants out by the midterm of this fiscal year. So if we get the group appointed, say in March, begin working on the RFP, it'd be my goal to have that RFP out before the end of session, if not sooner, so everybody has an understanding and expectation of the timeline that's there, and then work with people to get projects in and move it as quickly as possible, to get these dollars on the ground as fast as possible, to provide the benefits that we're all looking for, is a #1 goal for us. We will provide you opportunities and updates as those timelines are achieved.
Thank you very much to all the testifiers and presenter, and I'll just retract back that this is the constitutional amendment that was on the ballot and gained 83% of the Minnesota voter, which is an increase from 1998 of 6%. So, So thank you for your presentation, and thank you, members. Any other comments? I want to apologize to our next testifier because we've run short of time, so we'd like to postpone that for the next hearing date, which will be not Tuesday of next week. And I do have a little announcement too, because Tuesday of next week, we're going to take a tour to the History Center with the bonding committee over there. So that's what note will be sent to you to remind you of that tour. So thank you very much for the presenter. If no comment from members, I appreciate everyone's time. So meeting is adjourned.